Welcome to another episode of Business Inspired GY. Today we will be looking at the roles and functions of the Georgetown Mayor and City Council in regularizing businesses in the city. Our guest today is Deputy Mayor Alfred Mentor. Mr. Mentor, what role does local authorities play in the development of businesses?
Well, thanks for the question, and I'm glad that we're able to have this discourse so that at least council could be able to clear up a number of things and the myriad of roles and responsibility and services that we offer here at the council. As you know, the council were created by the Constitution. It falls under the Local Government Democratic Organs Act, and the council, like other NDCs, were decentralized to be able to handle these various responsibilities. We, at the level of the council, provide a number of different things. Most importantly is the issue of plans for businesses and all those businesses who need that particular service. If they have to build something, construct something, add on a part of their property for some reason or the other, and to be able to convert their property sometimes from residential to commercial or mixed use, so to speak. So they will need such approval from the council, and but those approvals just don't come by virtue of the city engineer providing that service. The people bringing it is a particular process that has to be handled. The people taxes and so has to be up to date, and a whole host of other different criteria that is part of that process.
Mm-hmm. With the council being responsible for the managing of the affairs of the capital city, if someone wants to open a business in Georgetown, what first must they do in relation to the Georgetown Mayor and City Council?
Well, opening up a business itself has its own requirement. We don't necessarily determine what happens with the business. We happen to handle a particular part of the business. Let's say if they need to understand if the area is commercial, if there's an issue as it relates to if they need to understand boundaries and a whole host of things. Because while we function as a council, there are other agencies also that has just to play a part. Outside of the city council, there's central housing and planning. There's also the EPA. There's other public health place that forms part of the city council's arm to put things in place. So it's a number of different things. But whenever they apply for whatever permission they seek, we as a council look at those and try to guide them through the whole overall process. Sometimes people say it takes a little long, but that's sometimes part of the process, because we alone don't control the process. We are just one arm or one leg of the process. The other agencies, central housing planning, fire, EPA, and so on, has to also, GWI has to play a role in those kind of processing. So I think the current government, I think and a process was even started even in the previous government to have like a single window system to allow to fast track these things, so that all the various bodies will be able to meet at a particular place and at a particular time to be able to deal with those approvals, so that we could be able to finish it in a faster way and a faster time, so that people can move on with their business pretty easily.
Given what we are seeing in the capital city today, the number of construction, commercial activity, do you see that same amount of applications coming into the council seeking permission?
Yes. What I could say to you, the council has a responsibility for properties above or below a certain height. So properties below 3 stories, council has a responsibility to deal with those matters. Anything above that falls under the central housing plan. The council also has responsibility for residential use of properties. Anything commercial in nature, we also have to seek the guidance of the central housing and planning, because they have responsibility for land use. We have responsibility for boundaries and so on and so forth, and how it affect others. But land use falls under the Central Housing and Planning Authority, and they determine if the property could be used for a particular commercial nature. In relation to the question at hand, they talk about the volume of things that's happening. Yes, the process starts here at the City Council as a local government body or arm, or the organ or is that responsible for properties within this particular boundary from Agricola to Commons Lodge. So we have that responsibility, and that the laws provide for us to be able to administer and to look at properties within such boundaries.
For a person operating a home-based business who now want to regulate or regularize, their operation, where do they start?
In such a case, a person who has a mixed use, in that case you say residential, commercial, they start here. We look at, because the property was originally residential, we look at the issue as it relates to how we take our inspectors and so on. After they submit their plans, our inspectors would go and look at a particular venture. There's a particular use or a particular license that we will need to get to be able to have that property used for that particular thing. But again, we have to marry that with the central housing if it relates to commercial. But in relation to the property at hand, they're required by law to have a certain license for use. Let's say it's for grocery, small office, it's a little snacket, whatever it may be. They will need to fix their rating to speak to both residential in nature, commercial use of some part, and they will then need to seek a rating valuation from the valuation division to allow to fix the use and of their property, to allow for the multi-use or the mixed use of living upstairs and having a business downstairs. So they will come into us and we will guide them with that particular process. I believe that is usually handled in conjunction with both the town clerk department and the treasurer's department.
Mr. Mentor, as a realtor by profession, how important is it for persons who are operating home-based businesses to convert their properties from residential to commercial?
Well, as a realtor, for me, I sell or I lease assets, and for myself or for even persons who would secure my services to do that. In relation to such measures, you have to take a number of things into consideration. Let's say the person would want to, they're acquiring that particular asset. The system require you to also get a certificate of compliance that you also have to get from the Treasurer's Department and not put into use. We reintroduced that system back within the last 3 to 4 years to allow for that kind of system to be put in place so that the council could get its right money. It is lawfully done between the City Council through the Treasurer's Department and the Deeds Registry or the Land Registry. So we have clear systems in place and lawful systems in place to allow for smooth transition and smooth doing of business. Again, it might seem very bureaucratic and sometimes cumbersome, but it's necessary.
Mr. Mentor, the Georgetown Mayor and City Council is not just about the processing of application for building permission and so on, but it also has other functions when
Yes.
it comes to the promotion of businesses in the capital city. What are those other functions?
Well, promotion of business. Well, we, outside of, like you said, plans and certificate of compliance is where people have to transfer their assets and have to get, we also provide market services. We provide cemetery services. That's state of affairs, but we're working on it. We also provide parks and gardens where we have the promenade garden where we rent those. We also provide other areas that we look to secure rental income from with our vast use of our lands and all those various reserves and so on that we have, and we obviously trying to maximize on, so that we could really and truly generate revenue in order to honor our overall obligations to our staff and to the citizenry as a whole. So we provide a number of different services, a myriad of services outside the issue of the plans and other basic things. We also provide we have an abattoir where we do the slaughtering of meat, and there are fees that are charged there for that. So outside of that we used to have the daycare, but now with the COVID, that is a service that we provide to the citizenry, those persons who might not have the wherewithal to be able to send their kids to whatever school. We absorb such costs, so and to give it at a very nominal fee. And in addition to that, we have our doctors and nurses. When we have the public health and other services we provide. So we do a whole host of things. It's not just operating plans and making sure that is in place. There's a number of services outside of those that we did that I just listed to you.
Mr. Mentor, for persons operating restaurants and snackets, why do they need to come to the council?
Health, as you all know, the pandemic itself, speak of being healthy, the pandemic itself caused people to do a lot of different things in different ways. It also has raised the consciousness of persons understanding and the value of being healthy, and washing their hands and maintaining healthy standards. So that in itself has raised the profile of such issues and raised the consciousness of the council even further to ensure that people do things above board. So the council has a system in place as it relates to food handler certificates for people who work in snackets and people who do food business in general. So we are very, very tough on that kind of area. And we're tough on it because we want to ensure that those people are doing things above board, which will transcend into a better society and a more healthy environment. So we enforce those issues and make sure that people get the best service from the council to as it relates to being healthy and so on and so forth.
What would be your advice to particularly small business owners who have not yet made the decision to regularize their business operations in the city?
My advice to them would be, before we have to take a position as a council on it and force and use and enforce certain measures, because the law provides under Chapter 2801 for us, not the council, but the officers who are having in that department, they could do this without any council approval. But if it turns out that they are not complying, and it would be advisable for them to come in long beforehand, before we have to even step up the nature of enforcing these issues, which could become very awkward and uncomfortable for a number of persons. So my best advice to them is to stay in compliance, to put their house in order, and to make sure that they're not culpable at the end of the day, and which will bring cause for being complacent. So my advice to them is to come in, ensure that they're in order, ensure that they bring their house up to date, and to bring their business in compliance with the law.
How easy is it for persons operating businesses in the city to come and seek to regularize their operations?
That is not a difficult issue. The town clerk's department deal with such matters, and the town clerk department is more than comfortable and is more than prudent to be able to deal with such issues. The compliance of such measures, the town clerk can lead those persons or her department to the engineers, to the treasurer. There are forms and formats and documents leading you how you should do this and how you should do that. So I don't see it as a big issue. As long as they want to comply, and long before we end up getting through hearing about a complaint and then taking action, it's easy for them to it's easier for you to come in and get it over with than for us to have to use other measures to be able to deal with such matters.
Well, Mr. Mentor, thank you very much for speaking with us today. I know that this is a conversation that we will be continuing from time to time as we seek to give the public more information in relation to regularizing their businesses and bringing it in compliance to the rules and regulations governing whatever businesses they are operating, whether in the city or outside of the city.